Um, so yes, 2 days ago we dealt with the non-literal approach, which is the one that Rashi brings in one of the positions in the Gemara, that Reuven didn't actually sin with Bilah. And we talked about how it seems to be the reason it's equated with such a terrible deed is because one level of committing adultery with one's father's wife is asserting one's place as the patriarch instead of the actual patriarch. And we mentioned the Rav's diuk that Yaakov is called Yisrael up until this 3 times in 2 psukim, and then he becomes Yaakov again, because that sort of undermined the journey, and maybe even led to the undermining of the power that led to the sale of Yosef, where the brothers feel like they should be in charge, and they're not. Right? It's much more threatening to your place in the family if you think you should be the leader than if you recognize that your father is a patriarch. Anyways. Okay, but let's say it was literal, which is again the other position of the Gemara in Shabbos, and many of the literal position, right? So again, we talked about the non-literal, saying this is a power play, or saying that, now of course, the other, in the non-literal approach, the way it's classically understood is simply he cared about the honor of his mother, but that doesn't explain why the sin is equated with adultery. You have to say that there's a certain level of a power play within that. Now, obviously, the other questions that emerge from this are, is he punished? Which, as I mentioned, in Divrei Yomim, it sounds like he is. He loses the firstborn. But if he is punished, so why is he not punished more, right? Meaning, just losing the firstborn seems pretty minor compared if what he was really doing was, as an act of rebellion, committing adultery to assert himself as the patriarch, right? That does seem like something that would warrant more, so it's possible that there's tshuva involved, which is the direction that Chazal take, right? Even the non-literal approach, that right? Chazal say that Reuven, the reason Reuven leaves for a little bit during the Yosef story and comes back is to do, right? He's involved in tshuva, and part of his attempt to save Yosef is part of tshuva, right? So Chazal really do go in this direction, but that works for all the pshatim, right? You can say this, whether you think the sin was literal or not literal. The fact that later on you see Reuven caring about Yosef and caring about his father and offering his own sons, which is misguided, but offering his own sons to bring Binyamin, right, so that he can help the family by getting food and convince Yaakov to let Binyamin come with them. Again, that may be misguided, but you see Reuven caring about the family, caring about Yaakov's feelings, about his honor, about his concern for Yosef. And I think in general that's the most plausible reason, however you understand the sin, to understand why Reuven is only rejected from the firstborn status and not completely rejected, which is again how Chazal read that Vayechi b'nei Yaakov shnei asar, is that despite this they remain to be 12. Though there is another sort of kav in the Parshanim, is that okay, very quickly, there are two other directions taken in the Parshanim of what Vayechi b'nei Yaakov shnei asar does after this. One is very negative, which is that Yaakov was so disgusted by this story, whatever happened, he basically gave up on having children at that point. He's like, my wives, this whole thing has been like, my children have gotten involved in my intimate life. Like, I'm done, right? I can't be with Bilhah because Reuven did whatever he did. I can't be with Leah because her son is like getting involved in my intimate life. Yeah, I'm done. Vayechi b'nei Yaakov shnei asar. We're done. I can't have any more children. That's the Ramban, right? The Ramban just says we're done. Right, that's what Vayechi Yaakov shnei asar is. After this story, he was traumatized and didn't want any more children. Alternatively, it's possible, and Torah notes that based on Rav Dov Tzvi Hoffman, it seems to emerge this way, is that what happened at this point was in punishment for Reuven's attempt, either as a power play or as the Midrash would have it, to decide who should be the main wife. Yaakov, as a punishment, I don't know, or as an equalizer, right, to assert his power, said, okay, from now on, right, there is none of this viewing my sons as different. There's the 8 children from the main wives and 4 who are secondary because they're from the Pilagshim. Right? From here on in, I decide who's who, and therefore, everyone's the same level. There are 12 sons. I determine that it doesn't matter what wife they come from. They're all at the same level, right? You think you can play with the role of the patriarchy? No, I'm still father here, right? And I can still decide, right, that my sons are my sons, and it doesn't matter which wife they came from. What status you get comes from me, not from you. Right? So Vayechi b'nei Yaakov shnei asar, meaning now they're all, right, Yaakov reasserts himself and says, no, right, I have leveled the playing field, I'm still the father, I still get to decide. Okay, so those are two different approaches on this. There are obviously many more details if you want to look into it, but those are the main directions.